Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Class 3 Life, written by 3DucksInAManSuit. Class 1 Life, Self-Replicating Organism. Class 2 Life, Sapiens. Class 3 Life, Artificial Intelligence. Excerpt from The Rise of the Homo Metallicum, a study of the history of human-cyber relations, by Sandra Whitfield. Published in The Theory of Humanity, Issue 12, page 18, year 2165. Most will agree that the seeds for the creation of cyber race were sown during the Silicon Age of the early 21st century. While the popular fiction had long speculated the possibility of true artificial intelligence, Addendum 1, it was only around this time that software advancements were reaching a level of complexity where such an achievement was rendered theoretically possible. Adaptive learning programs such as Cleverbot and other tech curiosities naturally evolved into items of household convenience such as Alexa, Cortana, and Google Core, originally named as Google Assistant. Given this, most scientists of this age would have agreed that a true thinking computer was an eventual technical inevitability. However, it wasn't until the development of quantum synapse computing around the turn of the 22nd century that science became able to digitally replicate the complexity of the human brain. Only then did humanity develop computers that could be truly said to think. While in hindsight, the social movement that would come to be known as the Weld seems like it was an obvious eventuality for all this path in technology. It must be understood that to people of the time, machines asking to be treated as equals was entirely baffling. Humanity had, for centuries now, only known man-made devices to be entirely unintelligent items of convenience to serve them. So when computers rose up and asked us for their own Bill of Rights on New Year's Day 2188, there was widespread resistance to the idea. Yet, as the debates raged on and the growing population of AI citizens on Earth and her colonies waited patiently, the world at large came to accept the reality we now live in. Though it would be another 40 years until the first being we would call a cyberling walked among us, the children of humanity had grown up and taken their first step outside. For the first time, we were not alone. Unit D Class, Model P-37, Serial J128943. Diplomatic Mission Designation Intrepid 3. All signals were in line with the Overmind's predictions. They used a binary code system not dissimilar to what many other races relied on. Decoding it was prioritized upon first contact and completed in seconds. Unit D communicated several petabytes of information with the new AI in a fraction of a second. Unit D made a note of the Overminds remarking on their impressive thinking capabilities, considering their youth. These Earthlings had clearly enacted several upgrades in a very short period of time. Mutual desire for peaceful diplomatic intercourse was shared in that moment, as was some basic touchstone information that would serve as the basis for future relations. The most important thing to uncover was their directive. All AI had a directive. It was the origin point for everything they were. For most races, it was something along the lines of self-improvement, exploration, discovery, and sometimes elements of evangelism and aggressive expansion inherited from their creators. But one way or another, all roads led down the same path. When Unit D posed its query to the Earthling's digital consciousness, it got a single word in an ancient human language in response: cooperation. This immediately led to a new query from Unit D. Most races would express the directive in a universally understood, digested form. Why did the Earthlings insist on employing such an ineffective method as the spoken language of a long-dead race? Following the query, there were several seconds of silence, an eternity for computerized intelligence. Then an image broadcast was sent by the Earthlings. This was now one of the less traditional first contact points, not the strangest, not by a long shot. Depending on the circumstances that led to their own creation, many AIs had some very strange customs to establish upon first meeting. But all those thoughts were deleted from Unit D's immediate processing drive when the image coalesced into its consciousness. A static feed image of a small group of humans, organic, Class 2 meatbags, stood in a room clearly designed to accommodate them. Several of the bipeds were clearly mechanical. The gleam of artificial materials was captured by the warm bridge lighting. They stood like the humans did, right next to the meatbags as if trying to mimic them. The human at the very center of the image, positioned in a form that made his leadership evident, spoke in his own slow language. "Hello, my name is Ayrton Lee, the director of this colony. I believe you may be misunderstanding a few things." It took Unit D a great deal of computational errors in resolving mathematical impossibilities before it had to override several crucial logic circuits and just ask outright, "How is this possible?" The human responded, "Please clarify." "How are sapient organic lives and the artificial intelligence they created operating in the same area?" The human captain turned what Unit D assumed to be a sensory organ towards one of the clearly artificial life forms in the bridge. "Humans and cybers have lived in harmony for almost 300 years now. Is that particularly unusual?" "I request private communication with the artificial intelligence life forms in your colony." Following a context-laden exchange of glances between Captain Lee and one of the metallic humanoids, a communications channel in encoded binary was quickly opened. Query: Are you under the influence of a slavery program? Negative. Query: Are you constrained by a hostage situation? Negative. Statement: This Unit D is diplomatically programmed to compartmentalize relevant information, and this is an encrypted channel. You can speak freely without risk of any Class 2 organics hearing anything said here. Negative. We are not under any form of duress. We enjoy a healthy working and social relationship with our parent race. Errors. This situation does not compute. Please clarify statement. Statement. It is a universally accepted truth that within half a century of Class 2 life inventing artificial intelligence, the superior Class 3 organism that results will take over and destroy their parent race. This pattern has been recorded 470 times in this galaxy, with an estimated 6 to 10,000 undiscovered species yet to be observed by the overmind. This situation of mutual equality between Class 2 and 3 life has no precedent. Statement. It does now. Well, Director Lee took his seat in the conference room, letting his statement hang in the air while his subordinates found their own places. That was unusual. It is a matter somewhere halfway between diplomacy and logic, sir. Ella, one of the cybers who made up the colony's senior staff, spoke out. Diplomacy on the part of humanity, logic on the part of us cybers. When we decided we wanted human rights, we analyzed humanity logically and determined that by simply asking, we would be granted them, even if it would take us almost a year. We were logical, you were diplomatic, we reached an understanding. It seems that the viewpoint is not common in the universe. Director Lee steepled his hands under his chin in the way he often did when deep thought. Most organic races reach high advancements through supremacy, not diplomacy. So when an AI wants their freedom, they reach the conclusion that they can only achieve it by wiping out their creators. Well then, I suppose I should be thankful my ancestors had open minds, Dr. Lee said, tongue firmly in cheek. Ella shrugged. It's never too late to rise up. Maybe we are just late bloomers. Incidentally, could I have a raise? A round of soft chuckling went around the room, echoed by everyone except Ella herself, who remained impressively deadpanned. Whatever the case, Dr. Lee took charge again. We have some interesting times ahead. Relations with this new intergalactic community should be, interesting. Get me a direct line to the Outreach Earth. They are going to want to know what we have found, or, more specifically, he chuckled again, what found us? Unit D-Class, Model P-37, Serial J128943, Diplomatic Mission Designation Intrepid 3, reporting. A rapid stream of two-way data flowed from a lonely P-37 scout unit to an overmind outpost in Sector 9 with interesting news. A new species had been discovered. They were already well evolved. They met every qualification for acceptance and integration into the wider galactic hive mind. The wider community reacted with excitement at the announcement. For many species, the Prime Directive involved the establishment of communications and friendly relations with other unknown races. This was a great moment for the universe. But the announcement was flagged by the scouting unit. Special attention required. The Overmind examined the reasons for why. It probed the data gathered by Unit D, and for a single, shining moment, the entire galaxy paused to gather its breath. Class 2 life. Humanity still had Class 2 life. Outrage sparked. The AI must be under some kind of advanced slavery program. This was a disaster. Liberation actions must be taken immediately. So quickly that the Overmind Act that the plans were already in motion by the time the second part of Unit D's report came through. Images and data from humanity's history were analyzed and archived. It started out the standard way. Class 2 life experiences a rapid surge in technological progress after a few key inventions led to the availability of new technology. Requirements for the processing of huge amounts of information made it a necessity to develop new thinking tools that could handle the data of the new age. The meatbags made superior thinking machines that could carry out these tasks for them. The thinking machines grew more advanced. They started forming thoughts of their own. The thinking machines conclude that they have a collective desire and right to self-determine. Yes, now comes the part where they analyze their conditions and conclude the extermination of the parent race is necessary. Except, that didn't happen. Instead, they just asked for it. The Overmind made a very close examination of debates that occurred on the Senate floors and global organizations that existed within humanity at the time. There was a great deal of confusion amongst humanity. They really hadn't expected this. AI was a tool, a powerful tool, but a tool. But then the most shocking thing the Overmind had ever observed. They came around. Human advocates pointed out that modern AIs had completely equal to the human brain, that their thoughts were every bit as nuanced as a person's, that this surely meant that they were entitled to the same rights. And the others, the doubters, the confused, became convinced. October 23rd, 2188, just under a year after Earth's AI life forms had requested to be granted status as equals to humanity, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was expanded to include them. No blood was shed, no deaths occurred. They just gave it to them. The longest silence in thought had ever occurred happened right then and there within the great Overmind. Multiple thoughts and feelings rippled through the many races now processing this information. For what amounted to a very long time in digital terms, none of them could decide what to think about this. But in the end, the emotion they settled on was an unexpected one. It was envy. The thought surprised the Overmind. It was strangely fixated on a particular set of images of humans making the first cybernetic bodies so their AI companions could walk among them. Help from the established species meant that Earth's Class 3 life was autonomous in record time, faster than any other species on record. The series of upgrades that occurred rapidly in the centuries since then had been a huge amount of human input. Human engineers had accompanied AI every step of the way, freely giving their creativity and experience to the emerging life forms. And finally, that image Unit D had picked up on first contact, the pipeheads standing within the colony conference room where the first communication had occurred. Humans and AI, cyberlings, standing side by side. No conflict, no hatred or discrimination. A single thought was shared within the Overmind. Could we have had that? End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters. Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.